So Angie sent over her blue hour, golden hour shots, and this is the image that she submitted. And I thought, wow, we could do a lot more with this. There's a lot more information in this file. I believe she is shooting a Sony A7 something 3. I'm not sure if it had an R, an S, or just a 3. And I think that's what it was. Anyways, so this is what she sent. I asked her to send over her RAW file, and then I worked her RAW file up into this. So look at all the color that's there. Tons of color to pull out, and a little bit of touching up down below. So let me show you how I got there. Okay, so let's take a look around. It does have a nice blue overcast. I'm guessing that the road is, or the drive leading in is gray. So I'm just going to grab the color balance tool, the white balance tool up here, and you want to click on something you know is a neutral color. So I'm guessing this is. So as I click around down here a little bit, we get a little bit of difference. It pulls some of that blue out. Already the image is brightened up considerably. Next, I'm going to move over and see what happens with my dehaze as I push it each way. Ooh, that's kind of cool. That might be a neat effect for later. Another shot that would be later. So I'm pushing the dehaze over. So just by doing that, we're starting to get more definition up in the clouds. And I'll push up my vibrance a little bit for right now. I'm going to look up here. I'm going to see what happens when I push my whites up. I'll pull my blacks down a little bit. I'm going to push up my shadows because I want to bring out some of that detail down below. I'm going to push my highlights down. So then when we push the highlights down, the color is starting to pop out more in our clouds. I'm going to see what happens when I add a little bit of contrast. We're getting a nice little bump with the contrast as well. And I'm going to leave the exposure as it is. Next up, I'm going to just hop over here to the tone curve, and I want to be set to the point. And I'm going to take this white balance right here, not the white, but the white point down to an output of 250. That way, if we blow out the whites a little bit in here with our adjustments, we're not really blowing them out. There'll be ink to lay down on the paper. So remember, even when you're in Photoshop, check your white point before you go to print and pull the RGB value down to 250. Next up, I'm going to hop over here to the HSL adjustments, and that's hue, saturation, and luminance. And I'm going to play with the luminance. So I'm going to see what happens when I adjust the luminance of the orange. I'm going to pull that down a little bit. I don't want it to look funky, so we want to be sensitive to that. And then what happens with our blues a little bit? I'll pull that down a titch. Maybe our cyans. So we're starting to pop some more color into this by playing with these. You can change the color totally with the hue. That's your color. And if you double click on it on the slider, it takes you back to 0. The saturation can be the intensity, so I can pull a little bit of the blue out. So just kind of a dance back and forth a little bit, seeing exactly where we want to put these points. Now, while you're playing with this, you guys, play with it. Don't be afraid of it. You can always reset things. And you can see when I'm playing with the greens what's happening with the luminance. It's brightening things up. And saturation, you can see we're kind of pulling a little bit of it out. So I just want to leave that set to its back to its default, so I just double clicked on it to get it back. I just wanted to show that to you. Okay, so now that we've done the HSL, we've played with the curve, we're going to come back here, and I just like to come back and just kind of like double check things, see how I'm feeling about it. I'm going to look at my contrast again a little bit, seeming fine. And remember, what I'm really looking at this moment is the sky, even though the sky still might get a little bit of more of a tweak. If I push my clarity up a little bit, I like to do that. See what that dehaze does. I could fine tune that a little bit. Looking good. Vibrance looking good. Saturation looking good. Let's open this image up. Okay, so this is the first step. This is our raw base file. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on the ground. So I'm going to duplicate the layer, Command J to duplicate. And I'm going to go back up to filter, and I'm going to go back down to Camera Raw filter, and we're going to open it back up into ACR. This time I'm going to focus more on the ground. So I'm going to open up the shadows further. I'm going to add a little bit more clarity. See what that dehaze does a little bit. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Actually, I don't want to add that much clarity. Dehaze. I just really want to focus in on getting those shadows a little bit more opened up for us. Pop that. Okay, so we're going to hit OK now. And we've got the base layer and the top layer. So the top layer is lightening everything. So we need to add a layer mask. So I'm going to hit the Option key and click on the new layer mask icon. Why hit the Option key? Because it brings up the layer mask as black, hiding all, rather than white, revealing all. So it saves me a step. If I didn't do that, that would have been fine. I could have just hit Command-I to invert the layer mask. Now I'm going to grab my brush tool. I hit B with my on my keyboard. My layer mask is black, so I want white to be my foreground color to paint with. So now we're going to paint the lower part of the image with white at 70%. So let's make that brush big. Bring out some of this detail down here. And 70% as I go over it, you can see it builds it up. So I'm going to hit X on my keyboard, and I'm going to come in from the top and just pull a little bit of that off of up here, because I don't want to have to fuss with the sky any more than I need to. I can even make my brush smaller and take it up to 100% and just kind of run right across here and see how that's looking. Real quick, let's take a look at that layer mask. And that's looking pretty good. I see it. I'm going to touch it up a little bit at the bottom and around the edges. Whoops, wrong way. There we go. Okay, so that's looking a lot better. Make this smaller. See if I can bring out any more detail in here. A little bit. I'm not really liking that though, so I'm going to undo it. I'm going to do that on a separate layer here in a second. Okay, so that's looking better. Let's come back over to the adjustment, not to the adjustment, but just to the layers panel. And let's stamp these layers together again. So Shift, Option, Command E. Now those two layers are in one. I'm going to go back up to Filter. I'm going to go down to Camera Raw Filter. And I'm going to play with that sky a little bit more. Make it a little more dramatic. Wow, that's looking cool. Okay, okay. Here it is. Add the layer mask because we don't want the bottom to be getting any darker again. So hold that Option key, click, grab our paintbrush, make it bigger, paint with white. I'm at 100% right now. Let's do 70. Make that brush even bigger. Now make it smaller. And I'm just having a good time here. Okay. Looking good. So we've gone from this to this. Looking nice. I think I can pop out some more of this detail through here, as I was saying earlier. So let's just go after using a curve. Make this bigger. And you can see when I do that, it's lightening the hole. I'm going to add a little bit of contrast in here while I do it. Make the adjustment. Okay, Command-I to hide that adjustment from all. Go to our brush tool, make it smaller, paint with white. And let's see, I'm at 70%, that works. Actually, oops, Command-Z, I just didn't like that too much. Let's paint with 100% and come through here. brighten that up a little bit. Now over here, I'm going to click on one side, click, and I'm going to move over here to the other side and hold my Option key, and I just shot a straight line right across. Make my brush a little smaller, come down here, paint in here. I'm not doing too good of a job as I can see, so I'll hit X on my keyboard again and take off where I don't want it hitting the grass. So let's see how I did there. Looking good. Click back on there, make this bigger. I'm going to take it down a little bit to like 40%. Paint with white. See if I can pop these out a little bit more. Sorry about that. That's working. Painting with black up there, I thought I overdid a little bit. Took my opacity up a little higher. See how that's looking. Turn the eyeball on and off. Let's double click on the hand. I'm looking around, seeing what I'm brightening, see if there's anything else I want to brighten. I think I want to brighten this little barn a little bit. So back to my brush tool. Is it doing much over there? Oh yeah, that helped. Let's make this smaller. Okay, that's looking a little better. One more click up there at the top. And I'm feeling pretty good about where we are at the moment. I think I'm a little too bright down here, so I'm going to make this brush bigger. I'm going to paint with black at 30%, and I'm just going to swoop across here. Okay. A lot of times it's nicer to have your foreground a little darker to help lead your eye back. And I know we just took time to lighten that, but it's still helping. Okay, so that's looking good. So I'm feeling good about this so far. So I worked this image once before I did the demo for you guys, and the last thing I did there was some retouching, and that's the file that we're looking at right now. So when I turn this on and off, you can see that there was some retouching done. So let's make this larger so we can take a closer look. These little details make a huge difference. So before, you got these cars down here, we've got this fire hydrant, there's this distraction here, all of this goop in the driveway, some stuff over in here. So I just went in and cleaned that all up. Use my Photoshop retouching skills. And I didn't redo it. I'm not going to make you sit through it because it took me a good 10-15 minutes to do that. So take the time to do that. I also went up into the sky, and if I turn this off for a second, let's make it bigger so we can find where some of these spots were. There are actually some spots in the sky somewhere. Oh, here's one. There it is. If we make it bigger, let's see, are there other spots? Well, I retouched a number of things in the sky. Let's see. Oh, here's one, the one down there, a couple up here. So notice I'm at 16 point, nope, I'm at 100%. Got to look at the right image. So I do my retouching at 100% or even a little larger. So this took us up to 200%. So depending on the file size, here's a spot here. So I went in and took all of that stuff away. I just cleaned it up. If I come down, make this smaller again. And if I come down into here, this little spot right here, clean that up as well. So take the time to go through and do retouching. Anything that's a distraction that you don't want to look at, get rid of it. Um, I don't care about the power lines. It's part of the image. It doesn't make sense to take those out in something like this. I think they add to the shot. I like the water tower in back, but cleaning up this foreground invites you into the frame. So just a few things to think about. So take the time to edit your photographs. Editing is practice. So the more you practice, the better you'll become, the more you'll see, the faster you will be. So let's take a quick look at where we started. This was the raw file, this very first one. No correction done at all. This was Angie's file that she turned in. The sky's pretty, it's subtle. I knew that there was more there. And with a little editing in Photoshop, this is where we ended up. Definitely take the time to clean stuff up down here. And I see something here I'm probably going to go back and clean up. Play with your color. Push it as far as you can. It might be too much for you. You might want to pull it back. That's okay. There's a lot of variations that are acceptable here. I like to sometimes play with something I call image 4 ways, where I process the image out 4 different times, 4 different ways. One time maybe I'll focus on the oranges. One time maybe the blues. Maybe I try to create less blue and make it a more dramatic, darker tone. I try to bring out shadows. I was using Adobe Photoshop here, but you can use any software you want to play and practice and make your images look stronger. I asked you guys to let me know what you were using, so please do that. If you're using Snapseed, On One, anything else out there, just let me know. I might be able to do a demo with that for you. So you get out and make your images. You guys are all looking really good so far. Snappy, snappy.